You know when you've been in the bath for a bit too long?
Or maybe just doing the dishes.
Yeah, exactly. And your fingers get all wrinkly like little raisins.
Oh, yeah. Totally relatable.
For the longest time, I think we all just figured, your skin's soaking up water, getting waterlogged, swelling up.
It seems logical, right? Water makes things swell. Simple cause and effect.
But it turns out science has a different answer. A much more active one, actually.
It often does. The
Yeah,
real
well,
story is usually way cooler than the simple explanation.
totally. And that's what we're diving into today. We're looking at some new research that didn't just reconfirm why fingers wrinkle, but asked this, like, totally new question I'd never thought of.
Which is?
Do those wrinkles form the exact same pattern every single time?
Ah, okay. Consistency. Interesting.
Yeah. So we're drawing on a new paper from Binghamton University and also this really neat article from The Conversation that apparently kicked the whole thing off.
Right. Connecting curiosity with actual research. Let's get into it.
Okay, so first things first. If it's not our skin acting like a sponge, what's actually going on? What makes the wrinkles?
So previous research, some of it by the lead on this new paper, Guy German at Binghamton, showed it's actually your body doing it on purpose.
On purpose.
Yeah, well, it's an autonomic nervous system thing.
Right.
When your fingers are wet for a while, the tiny blood vessels, the capillaries just under the skin surface, they actually constrict, they shrink.
Ah, wow.
And when those blood vessels shrink down, they pull the skin that's attached above them inwards. That's what creates the wrinkles, the skin being pulled down, not puffing up.
So it's like the opposite of swelling. It's pulling taut from underneath.
Exactly. An active physiological response involving nerves and blood vessels.
That is genuinely fascinating. And you mentioned this new research started with a simple question.
It did, and the origin story is great. Professor German had written about his earlier work for The Conversation.
Right, the site where academics explain their research.
Yeah, and they have the section Curious Kids. A student submitted a question basically asking, okay, cool, but do my fingers wrinkle the same way every time I take a bath?
Huh. That's brilliant. Kids ask the best questions.
Don't they? And apparently it just stopped him. He realized, I actually don't know. And that simple question sparked this new study.
I love that. Science driven by pure curiosity. So, all right, how did they actually go about testing this? Checking for consistent patterns.
Well, the method was pretty clever, actually. Quite direct. They got volunteers, had them soak their fingers in water for about 30 minutes.
Okay, standard prune finger procedure.
Yep. Then they took really detailed photos of the wrinkles. High-resolution stuff.
Got it.
Then, critically, they had the same people come back at least 24 hours later, do the exact same thing, same water temperature, same duration, and took another set of photos.
Right, controlling the variables.
Exactly. And the goal was to compare the topography, that's the fancy word for the 3D shape, the specific map of ridges and valleys from the first session to the second.
And, drumroll, what did they find? Are the patterns the same?
Amazingly, yes. The core finding of their paper is that these wrinkle patterns are highly consistent for an individual.
Wow.
When they took the images from the different days and overlaid them, the patterns of those loops and channels lined up almost perfectly. It's not random wrinkling, it's a repeatable feature.
Okay, my brain is trying to process this.
Mm-hmm.
If it's blood vessels shrinking and pulling, why the same pattern? Aren't blood vessels kind of, flexible?
Mm-hmm.
Squishy?
That's the key, isn't it? Why consistency?
Yeah.
The thinking is, while yes, blood vessels have some give, their relative positions to each other deep within the structure of your fingertip are pretty stable. They're anchored.
Ah, okay. Anchored.
Think of it like guy ropes holding down a tent canvas. The ropes might tighten, pulling the canvas down, but because they're pegged in specific spots, the folds they create in the canvas will always be in the same places.
That's a great analogy. So the blood vessels are like those anchor points under the skin canvas.
Mm-hmm. Precisely. Their fixed underlying architecture dictates the surface pattern that emerges when they constrict.
Okay, that makes a lot more sense now. That consistent structure underneath leads to the consistent pattern on top. Did they find anything else unexpected during this?
They did actually stumble onto something quite interesting related to nerve damage.
Nerve damage. How does that connect?
Well, remember we said the vessel constriction is controlled by the autonomic nervous system.
Right. The nerves tell the vessels to shrink.
Exactly. So they'd heard these anecdotal reports that people with certain nerve damage, specifically median nerve damage, that affects hand and finger sensation and control, don't seem to get water wrinkles.
Weird.
Yeah. And it just so happened that one of the students involved in the lab mentioned they had median nerve nerve damage.
Oh, perfect test subject, accidentally.
Kind of. So they tested it, had the student immerse their fingers, and sure enough, no wrinkles formed.
Whoa! That really confirms the nerve connection, doesn't it?
It strongly points to the nervous system's essential role in triggering this whole wrinkling response. A fascinating side discovery.
Absolutely. So, okay, beyond just satisfying our, deep-seated curiosity about why we get prune fingers, does this consistency finding have any, real-world uses?
It definitely could. The most obvious potential application they highlighted is forensics.
Forensics? Like crime scene investigation?
Exactly. Think about situations involving water, trying to get fingerprints from evidence found in water, or the very difficult task of identifying bodies recovered from water after a long time.
Yeah, traditional fingerprints must be really hard to get then. Degraded or distorted.
Right. So if these water-induced wrinkle patterns are consistent for an individual and potentially unique, though that uniqueness part needs more research, they could potentially be used as another form of biometric identification.
A kind of water fingerprint.
Sort of, yeah. A supplementary tool, especially when regular prints are compromised.
That makes a ton of sense. Using our body's reaction to water as an identifier. And I read that this has a bit of a personal connection for the lead researcher, Professor German.
It seems so. He mentioned his father was a police officer back in the UK and dealt with exactly these kinds of tough identification cases.
Oh, okay.
So he said biometrics and fingerprinting were kind of, quote, built into his brain from early on. It adds another layer to why he's pursuing this line of research.
Wow, yeah. That personal drive combined with scientific curiosity, and it all circled back to that one student's question.
It really did. It's a great example of how just asking why, or is it always like this, can open up whole new areas of science. Professor German even said he felt like a kid in a candy store because there's so much more to explore now.
That's the best kind of science, isn't it? The kind that sparks more questions.
Absolutely. And he made sure to thank the conversation and that student for setting them on this path.
Okay, so let's just quickly recap this deep dive then. Those finger wrinkles we all get, not passive swelling.
Yep. It's an active process. Blood vessels underneath constricting, pulling the skin down, guided by the nervous system.
And the big news, the pattern of those wrinkles is surprisingly consistent each time for each person.
Because the underlying structure, those anchored blood vessels, dictates the pattern. It's not random.
Plus that unexpected discovery about median nerve damage preventing wrinkles, highlighting the nerve control.
And the potential, really intriguing potential, for using these consistent patterns in forensics.
Right, as a possible new biometric identifier in watery situations.
It really drives home how even everyday, seemingly simple things our bodies do can hide these complex, precise biological mechanisms.
Definitely. So here's a final thought for you to maybe ponder next time you're looking at your wrinkly fingers. You're not just seeing soggy skin, you're seeing a precise, repeatable map created by the hidden architecture beneath, a biological response so consistent it might even serve as a unique identifier, all sparked by simple curiosity.
Makes you wonder what other everyday things hide similar secrets. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.